With the Crown Tundra expansion for Pokemon Sword and Shield being released a couple weeks ago, that most likely wraps it up for the Galar region, as from here on out, we are probably going to be moving away from the Galar region for the time being for future Pokemon titles. And since we have now most likely seen all there is to see from the Galar region, at least for the time being, I thought now would be a good time to bring back my series on the best theories of all time from every generation of Pokemon. I started this series a while ago, and it's been a lot of fun, so of course I've got to do it for the 8th generation as well, and even though it's only been out for a year at this point, there have still been some amazing theories that have been made surrounding the Galar games, and today I am going to be covering 5 of them that I personally think are the best of the best. These theories were crafted by a number of different people, all of which will be fully credited in the description below. So if you want to watch the full entire video of these theories, which I highly recommend doing, click the link in the description. With that being said though, let's go ahead and get into it. The first theory we're going to cover is one from my good friend Birdkeeper Toby, who has done a number of amazing Pokemon theories, and this one in particular focuses on Galerian Meowth. This theory proposes that Galerian Meowth is actually the original form of the Pokemon as opposed to the Cantonian one, and this is for a number of different reasons. First, we have seen this kind of thing happen before, namely with Galarian Zigzagoon, where it has been stated to actually be the original form of the Zigzagoon species. So we know this kind of thing can happen in the Pokemon world, and with Meowth specifically, it just makes a lot of sense, and this is due to the metal coin on its head. A pretty standard cat Pokemon like Meowth really doesn't have much of a reason to have a metal coin just sitting on its head. However, when you factor in Galarian Meowth, who is Steel type, it starts to make more sense in terms of this being a part of the Pokemon's design. So the general idea is that Galarian Meowth is actually the original form of the Pokemon, but upon migrating to Kanto, they gradually lost the need to be so rugged and tough, and this is where the metal coin on Meowth's head comes from, as it is a remnant of what it once was as Galarian Meowth before it evolved and adapted to its new environment. I personally think this theory is amazing and paints Meowth's origins in a way that is really cool and makes the Pokemon really interesting, and while I will have to admit that there is a Dex entry for Galarian Meowth that basically says the opposite, that it is indeed a regional variant, I just love this explanation that Toby came up with so much, and it's easily one of my favorite Galar theories. Moving along, this next theory comes from Loxton and user Joe Snowbuddy on Twitter, and it surrounds the idea that Snowrunt is actually the runt of a phalanx group that got left behind because it was too small to keep up. This is actually a really cool idea that makes sense in a ton of different ways. First off, if you look at Snowrunt and Phalanx side by side, they actually look really similar. They are both Pokemon that consist primarily of a small, roundish black body and blue eyes with 2 stubby legs. Secondly, they both have something that is covering their main bodies, with Phalanx having the helmets and Snowrunt having this throw, coat, jacket type of thing. So overall, these two Pokemon have a lot of similarities to one another, but it's when you start to look at Snowrunt specifically that this entire idea really starts to make a lot of sense. First off, its name is Snowrunt, as in the runt of a litter, and runts of a litter are known for sort of being kicked out from the rest of the group, and sometimes they're not able to survive as a result. And the thing that's really a kicker here is that despite Snowrunt being an Ice-type Pokemon, in Pokemon Sword and Shield it has an idle animation that shows it shivering, as if it is cold. Why would it be cold if it's an Ice-type Pokemon, other than to say that it is a runt of a Phalanx group, because they look so similar, that got left behind and now it is left to fend for itself. Be sure to check out the whole video on this one that once again is linked in the description, but again, amazing theory that's easily one of my favorites from this generation. And now, not to toot my own horn or anything, but I actually have a theory of my own to share that I'm personally really proud of, and it states that Leon was originally actually supposed to be the champion of the Alola region instead of Galar. This theory starts all the way back in Pokemon X and Y with the infamous Strange Souvenir event that hinted at the Alola region. In the game, there is an NPC who basically hints at the Alola region before we actually knew about it, and one of the things he states about Alola is that Alola has a really powerful champion. Well, knowing what we know now, that proves to be a big red flag, because we know that Alola doesn't have a champion until you become the first one yourself. And given that we know Pokemon X and Y comes before Sun and Moon in the timeline, this leaves a huge discrepancy. This makes it very likely that Alola was going to have a traditional champion originally at some point in development before Game Freak changed their minds, and this idea is pretty much solidified by interviews that state that the trial system in Pokemon Sun and Moon was added late into development, which also implies that the traditional gym system, along with of course a champion, was at one point included in the games. And because this champion was supposedly so powerful according to the NPC from X and Y, that leaves the perfect opening for Leon to fit in as the original champion of the Alola region before the trial system was implemented. Another big part to this theory is How and Hop, because How and Hop were immediately noticed by the fanbase to be very similar to one another, to the point where Hop was referred to early on as How 2.0. Well, as the theory goes, I don't think this is any coincidence, because I believe How was originally going to be the brother of Leon, just like Hop is when Leon was originally the champion of Alola. This would be why Hop was created in the first place as a replacement for How when Leon was held back from the Generation 7 games, and it would also explain why Hala was created as well, to fill the role that Leon left after being scrapped from Sun and Moon, and it also fits with that whole idea of the trial system effectively removing Leon from the game, because Hala is a part of that trial system. Check the link in the description for further details on that one, but personally, I think it's pretty solid. Next, we have yet another theory from Birdkeeper Toby, and while it is a smaller, simpler one, I really like the idea of it. The theory surrounds the character Clara that was introduced in the Isle of Armor expansion for Sword and Shield, and it states that she is actually from Unova and she trained at the Verbank City Gym before moving to Galar and the Isle of Armor. The reason why this theory makes so much sense is because according to one of Clara's league cards, she is actually a musician, or was at one point, although her success as a musician didn't go very well, which prompted her to come to the Isle of Armor to train as a Pokemon trainer. And when you combine her musical background with the fact that she is a poison-type specialist, it points pretty heavily and reminds you pretty heavily of the Verbank City Gym, which is not only poison-based, but the leader, Roxy, is also a musician herself. She even uses a Scolipede on her team in Sword and Shield, which is from Unova. So all of this comes together really, really well, and it creates a really interesting and cool backstory for Clara's character, which is why I like the theory so much. Finally, our last theory from the video comes once again from Birdkeeper Toby, because he's just that good, so check him out, and it concerns Chairman Rose and the mysterious appearance of a Type Null in the Galar region. Before the Pokemon Sword and Shield expansion came out, the only other legendary in the game besides Zacian, Zamazenta, and Eternatus were Type Null and Silvally, and considering that those are Gen 7 Pokemon, it seems like an odd choice. You are able to be gifted a Type Null in the games after completing the main story if you go to the Battle Tower and talk to one of the Macrocosmos employees. The reason why this is so odd, however, is because it's stated in Pokemon Sun and Moon that there are only 3 Type Nulls that were made prior to that project being shut down by the Aether Foundation. So how did one of them end up in Galar? Well, one of Type Null's Pokedex entries in Sword and Shield actually tells us this, although it's not the answer that any of us were expecting. It states that Type Null are now appearing in Galar thanks to corporate espionage that resulted in the stealing of the documents that helped to create Type Null. So that's pretty intense on its own, but what does that have to do with Chairman Rose exactly? Well, as we know, Chairman Rose is kind of a shady individual who also is the head of a giant corporation, and that corporation is Macrocosmos, who is the employer of the NPC that you receive Type Null from in Pokemon Sword and Shield. So it's heavily implied that Macrocosmos, most likely at Chairman Rose's direction, snuck into the Ether Foundation and stole the Type Null documents so they could make some Type Null of their own. But why would they want to do this exactly? Well, it was all likely a part of Chairman Rose's well-intentioned but poorly executed plan of stopping the return of the Darkest Day. We know that the Darkest Day saw the rampage of a bunch of Dynamax Pokemon all across Galar, and because Type Null is known as a beast killer, this likely caught Chairman Rose's attention as a way to combat Dynamax Pokemon if they were to ever appear and start rampaging all over the region. As far as I'm concerned, this theory is pretty much cut and dry fact, so hats off to Toby for coming up with such a convincing and really cool theory. So those are 5 of the greatest Galar theories that we have seen so far. However, this is just my own opinion, and I certainly haven't seen every Galar theory out there, so what do you guys think about these theories, and are there any other theories that you know of that you think are really great too concerning the Galar region? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already if you enjoyed the video and want to see more Pokemon content. You can also support this channel and the production of videos just like this if you would like by listening to my Pokemon remixes on Spotify as well as other streaming services, and by checking out my Pokemon Cardinal series on YouTube if you haven't yet. And be sure to check out the original videos for all these theories once again as well, with the links in the description. And with that being said, I will be back very soon with another video, and until then, as always, I love you guys, and I will smell you guys later.